Well, now that Big Blue is off wherever, Metropolis needs a true, pure-blooded American hero. Well, that's all fine and dandy, Mr. Homelander, but we have a lot of villains in Metropolis. Could you handle them? Well, sure I can, sport. Name one. I don't know, Toyman? Now don't insult me, James. I was just starting to like you. Okay, Manchester Black. I mean, is he even a villain anymore? Seriously, Jimbo, I can handle almost every single— How about Doomsday? Oh, I thought he was gone in space. Yeah, but he always comes back around. Could you handle him? But doesn't he just want Superman? He's already killed him once before. You are fresh meat. Huh. You know what? I actually think I hear someone calling for help in another city. Bye-bye. Homelander would die in Metropolis. Not only is he arguably weaker than John Kent as a child, but he also is not cut out for alien invasions, giant robots, and kaijus. Homelander had a literal panic attack the first time things got a little bit serious in The Boys Diabolical. Black Noir might get somewhere, sure as hell Soldier Boy would, but Homelander? No way. This nonsensical promotional image has got you guys saying the most insane things. This dude Homelander would lose his mind if he was ever honestly interviewed by Lois Lane. Homelander would actually end himself if Mr. Misty Spitlick trolled him for a day. This dude is weak on almost every level. Physical, emotional, mental. Not only does he not have the stats to hang in Metropolis, he has zero fighting skills. Dude has never had to try to actually win a fight ever. He was embarrassed by someone much weaker than him in the Maeve fight in season 3. The minute he goes up against someone like Lobo, who can regenerate from a single drop of blood, yeah, he's cooked. However, I know a lot of you do not read comics, unfortunately, so when I say that Livewire could whoop Homelander, you think I'm crazy. When I say that even though Homelander isn't weak to kryptonite, Metallo still destroys him, you think I'm dumb. When I say that Toyman, yes, this guy, Toyman, would embarrass Homelander, you think I'm lying. Not only will I get you guys to put some respect on his name, but you'll realize that Superman is a lot more than his powers. So we'll start with the smaller villains like Toyman, Livewire, etc., then work our way up and we'll talk about the biggest threats to Homelander and how Superman, even without his powers, can still handle them. I need to take a statement here before I get into all the ways Homelander would get absolutely bodied by the goofier villains in Metropolis, because too many of you guys think he's even close to Superman level. Even though I constantly complain about human characters getting crazy wins, I believe that a lot of DC characters could beat Homelander. If you guys remember season 3, which had a great Soldier Boy arc, we see the big fight with Maeve versus Homelander. If you've seen it, you know what I'm getting at. This dude whiffs all of his punches, gets outboxed by another corporate soup with a little bit of training, and worst of all, he gets hurt by a metal straw. Superman would eat that thing, literally. If a shitty aluminum and steel straw can go through Homelander's body without breaking, bending, or snapping, I'm telling you the possibilities are limitless on how he can lose. So let's talk about it. Toyman is one of those characters that is a complete joke until he isn't. You see his design, his goofy machines, and his limited history compared to more serious villains, and you think he's fodder. Man, oh man, would you be wrong. Let me say this first. If we can respect characters like Iron Man, who can summon a fleet of robots to fight, we can respect Toyman doing the exact same thing. He can make the most innocuous looking robot like a teddy bear, and he can still put the beat down on Superman. Do you see how far this dude tosses Superman? This isn't even his best one. Superman has to wind up a punch to uppercut this thing for it to stop. Even with the smaller inventions, Toyman is able to incapacitate Superboy, who is sort of Kryptonian, and Robin, which isn't a feat, but he's there too. Toyman is so insane, he can create some of the strongest robots out there, able to knock out a Green Lantern, and it'll be a stupid looking nutcracker. Now I know that Green Lanterns very famously get nerfed like speedsters in teen books, but this is still impressive. Let's talk about World's Finest 2009, not because it's this masterclass in storytelling, just because it has Toyman as a big player. In issue 3 we see Batgirl, who I believe is Steph, explain to Supergirl how Toyman beat their asses, them being Batgirl and Catwoman. With no real plan, they take Supergirl to the warehouse they got beat up at, and they of course get jumped again. He has a miniature of so many heroes and even some dinosaurs. Toyman does the best thing a human villain can do when they're overrun, which is haul ass and get away from the Kryptonian, letting his robots do the work for him. Toyman is freaking out, telling Mr. Freeze he gotta speed up a certain plan. We see Supergirl make quick work of the robots. Mr. Freeze pulls up like he's gonna do something and gets embarrassed by Batgirl. While Toyman mourns his mini-me robot, that certain plan goes into effect. A robot these two bozos have been working on on, a Batman and Superman hybrid bot comes alive, which is powered by Kryptonite Man, and immediately lasers Kara. Then we see that Batman and Superman are now aware of the impending doom. In issue 4, we see the giant robot running throughout Gotham, Supergirl and Batgirl clutched in his hands. Now what's important here is that Robin calls out how stupid this design is. It's a gimmick. Batman, who is Dick Grayson here, says something very important, that Toyman had built one of these before, and it took a meteor the size of Brazil to destroy it. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was 10 to 15 kilometers wide. Brazil is over 4,000 kilometers wide. I'm sorry, but Homelander could not take a punch to the nose from May without bleeding. Someone, mind you, who's far weaker than him. Even if he's not vulnerable to kryptonite, the sheer strength and durability of this thing is insane. It takes a military-grade missile to destroy one of the fingers, and Superman's lasers have no effect on it, not even melting. Someone please tell me how Homelander could ever think to clear Metropolis when he can't get past this dude. Let's move on, cause I'm getting angry. Livewire is another fantastic creation of the legendary Bruce Timm, and honestly I wish we saw more of her. She could be modernized a bit, but overall a great design, personality, and of course powers. Livewire, unlike Toyman, isn't a glass cannon. She can tank insane damage. Here she is literally absorbing the power of Blue Beetle Scarab. One of these days I have to do a video on Jaime because people have no clue how strong he actually is. Livewire also routinely dogs the shit out of Supergirl. Superman also states she's able to move at the speed of lightning, which is up to a third of the speed of light. To top it off, let's talk about Action Comics 835, Superman vs. Livewire. While this fight is mostly Supes trying to help a young woman, let's see how she fares in a fight with him. She starts out by agitating him while he focuses to super hearing, then on the next page she electrocutes Supes so bad he makes this face. Now Superman was already dealing with problems before this, fighting another villain named Queen of Fables, so some magic stuff. However, that isn't the same as him being exposed to a red sun or kryptonite, so he's still pretty powerful. Moreover, he's focused on finding Lois and he's just distracted. I will say though, this probably hurts, especially when you get this page where Superman says that she has enough power to juice an entire city or destroy it. Millions of megawatts, basically a nuke. While Stillwell says that Homelander could survive a nuke, I think she was bullshitting just to puff him up, especially when one shot of Temp V turned a human Billy Butcher into a Supe able to embarrass Homelander. Now for the next character, I'll need some evidence from the Boys comic book. Metallo is a guy who everyone believes is only capable of one thing, that being a glorified kryptonite container. Basically someone whose entire purpose is just to hurt Superman with this hyper-specific weakness. I'm here to tell you that is wrong. Even up against non-Kryptonians, this guy is still a fucking cyborg. Reminder, Homelander was getting fucked up with a straw from Starbucks. Even without the kryptonite, Metallo is more than enough to take down this fraud. This guy can tank Superman's punches without the kryptonite, and he could literally absorb an entire battleship. I don't think there is much Homelander can do without the kryptonite, but with the kryptonite, I have a theory. Now, in the Boys TV show, they tell us that Soldier Boy's powers are radiation-based. In fact, they can literally burn away the compound V in a Supe's blood. Maeve, someone who's able to draw blood from Homelander, gets turned into a human with this. I'm not saying that radiation from Metallo's kryptonite can do the exact same thing, I'm just theorizing that perhaps it can damage Homelander, even slightly. I mean, in the comics, it's stated that a nuke could potentially kill Homelander, so it's not like the guy is as durable as Madeline Stillwell was saying in the show. This one is a short one, but I thought it was an interesting theory, given how we don't know too much of what can affect Homelander. I will say, if you're not satisfied with these villains being a viable threat to this loser, the next few will shut you up. You guys knew where I was going to land with this. Superman has some insane heavy hitters. I could pull from characters like Cyborg Superman, Ultraman, or Manchester Black, and so many more. I mentioned Mr. Mixie Spitlick before, who again, I shouldn't have to explain how mentally weak Homelander would be to him. Also people like Lobo, who can give a seasoned Green Lantern Hal Jordan a hard time. In the Legion comic, issue 47, Hal tries to contain Lobo, which of course he's offended by, saying he's been insulted. Hal, the cocky idiot, has his back turned to him, and of course gets sucker punched. Hal tries to contain him again, which he breaks out of. Now I'll give Hal some credit here because he was trying to focus on a rescue mission. He even says he needs total concentration to subdue Lobo. If you somehow think the guy who can beat up the greatest Green Lantern ever is losing to Homelander, I got some other people to show you. This next bit here, I'll be lumping in quite a few villains, mainly because they all share relatively similar power set depending on the era. These are the big bads when it comes to Superman rogues. The Kryptonian types mostly. I'll be covering Bizarro, General Zod, and even though he's not Kryptonian really, Doomsday. I'll put him here because they all have the same obstacle that someone like Homelander and honestly the entire Boys universe could never get over. That obviously being their insane strength and durability. Now when it comes to Bizarro, I shouldn't need to say much here, but let's run through it. Bizarro is able to keep up with Zoom, one of the craziest speedsters out there. He's also durable enough to tank attacks from Flash, Plastic Man, and Green Lantern. What's even crazier is somehow this dude was able to snap the lasso of truth and beat my girl Diana to a bloody pulp. Low-key, I'm mad. Wonder Woman should have won this fight, but Bizarro is like that, I guess. Now, General Zod is more straightforward than Bizarro. He's Kryptonian. Not as strong as Superman, but he had the greatest military mind on Krypton, meaning he has hands. Now, Superman isn't Homelander in that he can't fight, it's just that he's not the best. We see this when Zod and Fiora pretty handily whip his ass here. He wasn't even trying to kill him. Another time, we got these two putting the beatdown on Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner. Insane. One of the craziest pieces of Zod history is when he got sliced up by one of the world's greatest swordsmen, Ra's al Ghul, with a kryptonite sword. All he says is, "It's been a long time since I've been hurt like this, but I'm not that hurt," and just gets right back to business. I don't know too many characters who can make Ra's al Ghul react like this. Crazy. Now, last but not least, we have Doomsday. This guy is something else, man. He basically is a better Homelander, someone who's created in a lab, but when defeated just comes back even stronger, becoming more and more perfect. Doomsday's entire purpose is to simply fuck shit up. The guy is a menace. In Superman, the Doomsday Wars, he's able to tag Flash and knock him unconscious, and then we just cut to this. All of y'all got whooped? Even you, Martian Manhunter? I am so disappointed, man. What's even crazier is Martian Manhunter says this is the hardest he's ever been hit. It literally takes Superman wailing on Doomsday, and then Martian Manhunter and Orion, a new god, the son of Darkseid, to finally start getting somewhere. That would probably be one of the greatest feats if he didn't kill Superman. That's something Darkseid didn't even do. I mean, this has to be the most iconic page in comics ever. Killing the greatest superhero of all time, Homelander would sooner get on his knees and beg for his life than to actually fight someone like Doomsday. But what happens when Homelander runs into a less obvious threat? Someone with intelligence far greater than anyone he's encountered. Let's talk about you-know-who. Lex Luthor, Superman's baby mama, and also his greatest rival, the man who owns Metropolis. So when this cowardly loser, Homelander, steps foot into a city, I promise you it's up. Forget the fact that the Raptors from Superman 2025 could honestly be enough for Homelander. One of Lex Luthor's greatest allies, Mercy Graves, is sometimes depicted as a cyborg. Remember the metal straw, because I promise you she was not made in a Starbucks factory. Now, I was going to put Brainiac in here as well, but that felt like overkill since Brainiac has some insane physical feats, and I want to focus on how Homelander can't handle a more nuanced and intelligent plan to destroy him. Superman 2025 reminded me a lot of Mark Waid's Superman Birthright. Even though Gunn for some reason was recommending people to read All-Star Superman, it really should have been this comic, mainly because it's a good intro to Superman for people who may not know him, and All-Star is more like a reunion tour type deal, celebration of a long history of the character. However, in both the movie and Birthright, Superman has to constantly deal with Lex Luthor trying to make him look bad, get in his head, cause problems, and just generally tearing down his reputation. Now, Superman, while a huge celebrity, does not give a fuck about fame. You know who does though? Homelander. This guy has no friends, family, or anyone. He does what a lot of sad and pathetic celebrities do, which is latch onto their fan base as the surrogate social group, feeding off their love and adoration instead of having an actual healthy relationship. If Lex cut off that supply, bye-bye Homelander. He wouldn't even need to bust out the mech suit to whoop him. Homelander would just end himself. Luthor succeeded in painting Superman out to be this guy that he's not. He'd have a field day portraying what Homelander actually is, a loser. I mentioned Orion earlier, and while I really want to do a video on him after reading Ram V's New Gods run, I want to talk about his father, DC's greatest editor, the creator of the Absolute Universe, one of the undisputed GOATs in fiction, Darkseid. Darkseid as a character is relatively simple to understand. He seeks to rule over everything. He's a tyrant, but one that is measured and highly intelligent. Furthermore, the guy is the new god, meaning he's a powerhouse, the strongest guy I've mentioned in this video, and honestly, if you're watching this video, you know this bum, Homelander, would piss himself if he ever heard his name. Hell, a parademon could eviscerate Homelander. Granny Goodness could brainwash Homelander to being Darkseid's living maid. This dude is a loser. However, the most interesting thing, to me at least, about Darkseid is the anti-life equation. It is literal proof that your life is meaningless. You serve zero purpose. However, Darkseid doesn't want you to end yourself, he wants you to serve him. And with this equation completed, you will. Superman, the symbol of hope, full of so much willpower and just general goodness, is Darkseid's own kryptonite. While he's not immune, he is sure as hell a thorn in his side with how strong his spirit is. Most people, like you and me, would succumb to Darkseid's power and be enslaved. Homelander is not like you and me. This man was made in a test tube and raised in a lab. He has no friends or family, no girlfriend or wife. Homelander only has one son that is a product of a woman being forced to be with him, and even then, Ryan lowkey hates this dude. I say all of that to say that Homelander is weak in so many ways, especially spiritually. This dude was sobbing to himself after thinking he lost an election. What would happen if Darkseid pulled up? Now, it's easy for us to compliment Superman on his strong determination, spirit, and overall will when he's the Man of Steel. What happens when he's just a man? Is he able to do anything at all? Let's see. Now for this next one, we're going to step out of Metropolis, in part because the question of how long would it take for Homelander to clear up Metropolis irritates me. The premise itself disrespects the hell out of Superman. This part will force you mouth breathers to put some respect on his name. Even without his insane strength, speed, and many other abilities, Superman will always be Superman. Let's talk about one of the greatest modern Superman arcs, Warworld. Warworld is an arc that does a lot, but most importantly reminds us that Superman is more than his powers. I'm going to tell just enough of the story to make my point here, but I really recommend you guys read this run. The art and the backstory of Warworld is great. It starts really with Superman and the Authority, but that's mostly Superman getting a team together to free Warworld. In Action Comics 1036, we see the team make their journey. A scene I love here is when Superman pays his respects to this fallen warrior, and Manchester Black chastises him for this, confused why he cares so much when there's millions of people just like him. He says that he will never understand that part of Superman. However, Light Ray just says, I'd like to know what's that like, to care so much about everyone. Skipping ahead, Superman and the team lose on their first encounter with Mongol, and Mongol, rather than kill Superman, flaunts the fact that he conquered him by making him his slave. This is important because Mongol wants to have a symbolic victory here, and not make a martyr out of Clark, but to instead show everyone why his ways are weak and pathetic. How does Superman respond to this? By stealing himself in every opportunity, proving to the people of the Warworld that his way is the right way. Even when Midnighter tries to do the logical thing and take the easy way out by retreating, Superman stays in his cell, hoping to inspire the youth that are being brainwashed. Homelander would cry himself to sleep in that cell and get his ass kicked by those Phalosian kids. Superman not only inspires them, but he also adopts them. He does such a good job in the arena too, able to still put up a fight while being incredibly weakened by the red sun radiation. What I find interesting is how his fighting style is criticized for him constantly putting himself in danger protecting others, not being used to being vulnerable. Even with that, he still keeps on fighting, not able to use the full extent of his abilities. He has to rely on what actually makes him special, his ability to inspire. Now, this video barely scratched the surface on how fucked Homelander is. Superman is a character that was created almost a century ago. This video could have been 16 hours long, and it still would only be a drop in the ocean of Superman feats Homelander could only dream of accomplishing. Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman, whatever you want to call him, will always be more than his powers, while Homelander is nothing even with them. Useless bum. I know you're probably tired of hearing me use this, but this dude was getting hurt from a metal straw. I could make the argument that someone like Bane could beat his ass. However, I'm not going to put Homelander in Gotham, not to spare Gotham, but to spare his fragile little ego. I promise you, as much as I hate unruly Batman glaze, I think he could handle the guy. Let me know what you guys think about this bum. I think next video will be titled Charles Xavier as a Deadbeat. It'll be a shorter one just discussing his relationship with his son and Gabrielle Howler. I want to do a more in-depth video soon about all the crimes of Charles Xavier. Big shout out to my members listed here, especially the OG7, Cable, and Joey. I think for next month's members only video, I'll be covering the upcoming Joker vs Red Hood fight, mainly because I got spoiled on the outcome and now I am seething. That's all for today though. Peace out, guys.